What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second remix album by the Ying Yang twins. And basically this album is called USA Still United. It came out in the winter of 2006, basically those tail end days of 2005. And it was basically there to capitalize on Ying Yang Twins' summer 2005 album, which was USA, the United State of Atlanta. So basically, that album managed to get to the fourth single, and it had hit songs like Wait, the Whisper Song, Bad with Mike Jones, Shake with Pitbull, and the kind of mediocre, tepid fourth single, Bedroom Boom. But regardless, Ying Yang Twins were doing pretty well in 2005, 2006. They had a couple of features on here that wound up on this album that would later be distributed across 2005, 2006, like the Get It song with Bun B, which is on his album, and then Miss New Booty with Bubba Sparks, which would show up later in 2006. So they were kind of getting some features, and Ying Yang Twins decided to capitalize on their success of 2005 because they just were doing a lot of things right, and they kind of broke out of Lil Jon's mold a little bit, where in 2003 it was basically bolstered by songs like Damn or Get Low and Salt Shaker and some of those type moments. But this is kind of one where they don't really have Lil Jon, especially on this project. Like, at least on the United State of Atlanta, Lil Jon was on that album a little bit with a couple beats, but this is really Lil Jon free. And it's just interesting that Ying Yang Twins managed to break away. Now, I do feel like this album probably should have been bolstered with the single, which it doesn't have, and it tries to kind of crest off the energy of Bedroom Boom, which was really not blowing up the way that it needed to. But I still kind of feel like there are some good songs on here. It's a relatively brief and compact project, but it does have a decent amount of hits that are worth looking into just because there are some new songs on here and some features that I probably wouldn't have known that Ying Yang Twins had done if they had not been on this album. So it's kind of interesting. There's a group called The Musicians that featured got a feature from D-Rock of the Ying Yang Twins, and there's like a cat on here named Homeboy featuring the Cadillac Boys. So there are some ones on here that kind of have that. Mr. Collie Park's on here. So there's just a number of stuff that this kind of almost feels like a compilation. But I do like the fact that Ying Yang kind of mildly or decently managed to capitalize on their success. But it doesn't have a single. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the 3 songs or 3.5 songs out of 12 that I recommend. So there's actually, yeah, there are 12 songs on here. There's 2 remixes that are almost songs for me, but I'm not going to count that part of the score yet. But I'll go ahead and recommend the 3 songs I recommend. So they would be 4 Ounce, Get Yearn, and The Pink. And then the almost song, which is a new song, is Wiggle Then Move, which I'm kind of still getting used to, but I do somewhat like it or mostly like it. And then the 2 almost songs that were just on other albums were Miss New Booty by Bubba Sparks and Get It by Bun B, which the reason why those are not hit songs as me adding to the score is because you can find them on other albums. So like Get Urine is a really clever beat on here. This is like the typical kind of low-key 2000s era rap music that just feels like, just all those local rappers that you would see selling mixtapes out of their car or something like that. Those type cats that pretty much are always going to be local or just have a very low-key vibe about them. It's pretty dope that the musicians managed to put out a pretty crunkish kind of bubbler on here. It's not quite full-blown crunk, but it's definitely crunkish. I feel like this kind of has like that syrupy kind of drippy energy of it in terms of like a dance club single. It's like I couldn't find information about this song, so I don't know where D-Rock really appears. Like I know his voice, but there's a verse in the middle of the song and at the tail end of the song that both sound like him. I don't know if he dropped 2 verses on here, but I feel like he's on the song somewhere, and the other cats are the musicians, and it's a great miniature crunk song, but I do wish that there would have been lyrics on the internet so I could have distinguished where D-Rock kind of was to help distinguish liking the song more, because it's just very pedestrian in terms of the quality apart from the D-Rock from Ying Yang Twins on here, but still decent dance bop. But it's just kind of the fact that the rest of the musicians just really feel like super low key and just kind of lackadaisical and pedestrian in a lot of ways. That's just kind of the concept, but it is a good song. The Pink is a great strip club song. This just feels like a typical day at like a strip club. This really samples like the Pink Panther tune. It's a nice bop for that sort of thing. This has that saxophone in there and that type of stuff. This really kind of like a slinky, kind of sleazy strip club kind of number. Just seeing women dance and motivate and all that type of stuff around strip clubs, and just slinkier dance clubs and that sort of thing. Definitely a good song for women to dance to. And then 4 Ounce with 3 6 Mafia. This is a good combination. 4 Ounce has 3 6 Mafia. This is a good combination just because Ying Yang Twins and 3 6 Mafia haven't done a ton of songs, but I did like the combination of it. It's too bad that Crunchy Black isn't on here. I feel like this song is kind of lengthy. I think almost it could have been shortened by about 40 seconds or so just because there's only 4 verses on here. D-Rock and Kane both drop verses, and then 2 members of 3 6 Mafia, which would be Juicy J and DJ Paul, drop. I just felt like for a 6 minute song, damn near you would have thought that there would have been more folks on here. I don't know why Crunchy Black wasn't on here because it was right around the time when 3 6 Mafia dropped Most Known Unknown. So he should have been on here. It would have been an even more carnivorous party. But it does have this kind of relatively shrill and dope kind of belly piano beat on here or something like that. Just real kind of typical of the stuff. Kind of reminds me of Ain't Got Time for Games. I think that's what that song's called off of Most Known Unknown. It's like one of the deluxe songs, Ain't Got Time for Games or something like that. Very similar to that. They did a lot of beats like that back in the day. This is just a really great one. Also kind of sounds like Hood Rat. Also kind of sounds like Hood Rat by Young Jeezy that they produced. That just really happens to be a nice one. Yeah, me liking, I mean, Miss New Booty and Get It are both, Miss New Booty and Get It are both great, slinky kind of club cuts. Like, I feel like Get It's kind of on par with the Pink. Definitely a pretty relatively strip club kind of energy. Has a great, slinky kind of menacing beat on there. And Miss New Booty is just, of course, a song for a woman with a nice ass and that sort of situation. So that's just an overall great one, too. But it's just too bad that those songs were already available elsewhere. So then that boils down to the Almost song, which is Wiggle Then Move. So then that boils down to the Almost song, which is Wiggle Then Move, which kind of has like a pretty crazy and frenetic kind of psychotic beat in the verses, and then it gets kind of syrupy and hypnotic in like the chorus and stuff. Really kind of like a crazy dance club number. It's really kind of a manic song. I like the concept of how this song kind of went, but I kind of feel like it has a learning curve towards it just because the beat in the verses is somewhat grating. It has kind of like a thin loop as far as that kind of goes, so it seems like it could get almost grating, but I do like it for the most part. But it's just kind of an almost song. To basically talk about some of these songs I didn't enjoy, like I feel like Legendary Status had a pretty cruddy beat, and so did Duts. Those are both kind of poor songs on here that probably shouldn't have been on the album, especially Legendary Status, just because Ying Yang Twins aren't even on there at all. I don't know why that song was even on there when it just didn't feature anything that had to do with them. Duts was trying to be like a kind of rowdy crunk number, but it just didn't pull it off as well. It kind of had a pretty terrible beat. And Mr. Collie Park's intro was decent, but I mean, that one was okay. And then I just didn't really appreciate the Wait the Whisper song Ultimix remix just because it didn't really contribute to much and it didn't really add much to the song. It was just kind of the same concept, just with more of like an echoey kind of feel, which didn't really enhance the song. I was expecting something that could have made it like breathe new life into it, made it like a new rendition, but it just didn't really pull that off. And the Shake remix didn't really do much either. It just had Elephant Man on there, and I feel like the original Shake off the Ying Yang Twins 2005 album was just better. So that's just kind of the concept. It's kind of getting disappointing in recent times when you see some of these remixes that just don't really contribute to much, and they just happen to have like an extra verse on there, and they don't really add too much or try to have some originality towards it. But it just didn't do much for me. And, you know, Bedroom Boom was just kind of a weak cut. I feel like Ying Yang Twins are just better on like the high tempo, more kind of like ravenous kind of flirty kind of songs more so than the sultry kind of romanticized ones. It was their attempt at doing it, but it just didn't really pull off quite as well as I would have liked. I mean, it is a slow jam if you need that from, especially if you need that from the Ying Yang Twins, but it just doesn't really have that effective jive. It's just not quite their cup of tea as far as that kind of went. But that's kind of the concept. So 3.5 songs I liked out of 12 plus 2 songs that were also found elsewhere. So basically about 6 out of 12. I'm going to go ahead and give this album me liking 3 songs for complete out of 12. I just would give this album like a 4.25 out of 10. I feel like that's relatively good enough just to be able to say that there's some good stuff on here, but considering that 2 of these songs can be found on other albums, and the Almost song is kind of in between. I would almost give it a 4.5, but a 4.25 just in terms of the concept of being able to say how much more it manages to connect and stuff. So that's just kind of the situation. But the social score, I'll give a 6.5 out of 10, just because I do kind of feel like I feel like there are some cuts on here in terms of socializing, like 4 ounce, the pink, get it, miss new booty, wiggle then move. Maybe you'll wind up liking some of the remixes too, plus Get Urine. I feel like over half the album has some social kind of strip club, jivey, dance club kind of cuts on here that just make it worth a lot of energy. Like Mr. College Park kind of says at the beginning of the song, Mr. College Park kind of says at the beginning of the album in the intro that this is basically a party starter. And that's to be true because it does have a nice social vibe. It's just kind of the fact that not enough of these songs connect with enough pretense as far as that kind of went, but decent enough. In terms of the future, Ying Yang Twins has kind of been past their prime a bit, but they haven't dropped as many albums, but there are more to kind of review, and I'm going to start getting to some more of these. But I would have to say this is not something to overlook. This album's not on Spotify. So I would definitely recommend picking it up and trying to find it. But it has kind of like some sneaky kind of cuts on here. It's not anywhere close to a classic, but it is worth investing in just to get like a small handful of cuts worth your time.